Our hotline. Good day, Baba, everyone. We're so fortunate to be here today with Farshid to, uh, talk about Prem Ashram, how we prepare. Thank you,
Well,
Farshid.
yeah, I mean, if you want to wait a few more minutes, we can wait. If you want me to kind of chit chat a little bit about
Okay.
the Prem Ashram time, we can do that.
Yeah. All right. That sounds good.
But, the Angela asked me to come and talk a little bit, and I thought, we should take world lightly and God seriously. And that's what Baba says. Especially now that we know of Baba and we know the purpose of life and the purpose of creation. Because, for the majority of the people or the public, they don't know why they are, in this world, what the purpose of their life is. They come to this world, they do good or bad or whatever, but they are, mostly engrossed in Shariat, which is, the religion basically aspect of life, and they don't even get close to Tariqat, which is the inner journey, inner path of love. Um, the main thing would be to see what we want from ourselves. To look within and say, okay, what do you want from my life? Do I want just to live a worldly life, gain wealth and basically be famous, or do I really want to go into the inner journey and be closer to God and eventually become one with God? Now, we all have got a taste of the inner journey. I'm sure we have. That's why we are here. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been this opportunity for us. But you see, when Baba started the Meher Ashram, and then later, some of the boys ended up in Prem Ashram, reminds me of the talks that I had with my uncle, with his family mainly, that they said, all the Baba lovers, they are really Baba likers. So that means, all of us are in Meher Ashram. Meher Ashram boys, they all liked Baba, but they didn't have that love, intense love, that would make them closer to God or, bring them closer to Baba. So now that we are all in Meher Ashram and we have the opportunity of getting into Prem Ashram, we should do that. The path is open. Baba actually himself lay out this river or the path towards God, which one of them was the path of love with the Prem Ashram boys, the path of maybe begging, which was through new life. Many other paths like Manonash, fiery free life, all of that. But I think for us who are in the world, maybe have a family, the path of Prem Ashram is suitable. It's the best, actually. It's one of the desirable paths that ends up to union. And we really don't have to do a whole lot. I mean, not physically anyway. All we have to do is to try to increase that love somehow. And Baba himself, sets guidelines of how to uh, how to increase that love. Um, so so again, I'm going to go back to this question of that what do we want from our life? Um, this is what we have to um, somehow come up to a resolution with ourselves. Say, okay, really, what do I need? What do I want? What what is most suitable to my soul? And that, unfortunately or fortunately, is dictated by the accumulated sanskaras. I mean, some of us might have a lot of sanskaras which are not able to even get close to Prem Ashram. Uh, but some of us, do make the effort and, enter the Prem Ashram. And some of us might be in the Prem Ashram already. And once you, I think, settle with yourself what you want to be, then you can according to that, you can make that effort. I mean, if you are happy that you are in Myrtle Ashram and you just like Baba and, you want to pass your life that way, then so be it. But if you think, no, I need more from this life, it's a waste of time if I stay in the world, what's the purpose of it? At the end, what's going to happen? What I have to leave it all and go. So what's all this for? Then you basically go a step further and try to ask yourself, okay, now what I need to do. Um, if, if you think that you want the path of love, then you have to work for it. And the work is not a physical work, it's the work of love. That means, you have to try to uh, do the best to increase that love. That the love is not going to increase by itself. It needs a lot of preparations. The preparation would be, as Baba said in his wish, my wish. That's a good thing to remember and remind ourselves that what his wish is and try to live the life according to his wish. If we try to live the life according to his wish, we get closer. Because, the preparation is not one thing. I mean, if you want to, for example, if you want to travel, um, go to India, for example, you're not going to just get your coat and jump in the plane. You have to say, okay, no, I'm going to go to India. I need maybe a jacket if it gets cold. I need my toothbrush. I need my, this and that. And you start packing and then head out, for your trip. This is also the same way. I mean, if you need to go through this path, which is an inner path, but needs to be a lot of preparation because the soul has to be prepared. If the soul is not prepared, no one can enter this path. And as I said, following Baba's wish, good deed, good words, good thoughts, all of these are preparations. And once the layout is done, the building can be built. So, basically you lay out the ground, you do that preparation, and then you can build on it. And, the boys who ended up in Prem Ashram, they had each one of them differently. They had different, like a way, a desire basically to enter this path of love. Like for Expander, it was, that the spark came when the couplet from Bush, son of Sadi, read to him that, that رسد آدمی به جایی که به جز خدا نبیند تو بنگر که تا چه حد است مکان آدمی. Basically, the couplet was saying, man will get to a point that sees nothing except God. So see how high the abode of human being is. And that sparked in him to leave everything and go in, through the path of love, go to Prem Ashram. For my uncle was different. For Abdullah Pakravan Chota Baba was different. For Ali it was a little different. So every one of them was a little different, but they all chose to enter the path of love and slowly, leave the world behind. Although all of them are, as you have heard about their life stories, they were in the world, they were functioning, not that they didn't function. They were in the world, but not of it, basically. They were not attached to the structures and the pleasures and, the beauties, if you want to say, of the world. They were not attached to that. They were more absorbed to the beauty of God. They saw the beauty of love, and then they left everything behind, and they followed the path of love. So that, is ongoing. I mean, Baba didn't open the Prem Ashram for just those few boys. He laid the foundation. He opened this path for whoever wants to go through. And the path is open. Anybody can do it. Now, I remember Swanger, recited many couplets of Hafiz, and Baba loved Hafiz also, who was one of his favorite poets, because first of all, Hafiz was a perfect master. Second of all, his poems are all referring to love and intense love for God and how one should love. You see, we talked about liking and loving. So liking is different. I look at a picture of Baba. I like Baba. People come and say, I like Baba because, Baba saved my life or saved my boy or saved my job or whatever. But that's liking. That's just things of the world, worldly things. And it's mostly involved in the world and in Sharia. Sharia, the book of this new book that came out, Baba talks very closely of that and the creation and its causes. Although talks about the creation, how it came to existence and all that, but also there are a lot of good points in there about how to love. It tells the boys how to love. And we can talk about how to love a little bit. Which is part of the preparation, and that is, Baba told them, give some of them some mantras, some repetition of, God's name, depending on their religion. He told them, like for Zoroaster, he said, maybe say Yazdan, Yazdan, Yazdan. try to say it all the time, and then slowly when they realize Baba himself is the Yazdan, they started remembering him and repeating his name inwardly and imaging him inwardly. There was one time that Baba gave the boys an exercise of, okay, repeat my name inwardly and image me inwardly. Try to image me inwardly as much as you can. And he gave them, hours of operation, when to do what, when to do what. He gave them a schedule, daily schedule. He had a daily schedule for them. So one day, Baba was sitting with the boys and he said, okay, is everything going okay with you all? And can you image me, while repeating my name? And some said, yes, Baba. And one person started crying. Baba asked him, why do you cry? And he said, Baba, when I try to image you, all kinds of thoughts come into me. They come into my mind. And I'm not able to image you. I'm not able to focus on you. I cannot see your image, and all these thoughts come, and the thoughts are bombarding me, and I cannot have that focus that you want me to. And then Baba said, yes, don't worry about it, because the mind's work is the devil. I mean, that's the devil's work, basically. And the mind, the thoughts come when especially you concentrate, the thoughts even are more and worse than normal. But you should ignore them. You should try to make a net, like, mosquitoes come. You don't sit there and cry and say, oh, mosquitoes are biting me. You have to think about something of some way of, getting those mosquitoes out or keeping them out. So what do? You make a net and then go into the net. And there, the mosquitoes are buzzing outside, but they can come in. And, one or two might come in, but, it's not too many, so it won't bother you. So he said, you have to do it the same way. You have to make a net of my name and image around yourself, that the thoughts will be like buzzing of the mosquitoes, but they cannot enter. And Baba tells them, that needs practice, and that is, once you do that, you master that, and you can do it. So that is a good preparation way of dealing with this. But the bottom line is one must love. And I remember Erich was saying, with hook or crook, one should get closer to Baba. So hook or crook, however you want to do it. And Baba helps, Baba is present. I mean, although he left his physical form, but that doesn't mean that he's not here. He's here. He's within every one of us, and he's guiding us through if we ask him for that guidance. So it's up to us how much effort we make and how much asking we do, so he can, he can help us. One couplet that reminds me to shed some light on that. He said, and his friend was, saying that a lot. He says, "Gargida kahel bovar taqsir sahib khane cheez." And the meaning of that couplet is that if the beggar is lazy, then what's the fault of the owner of the house? I mean, if you're lazy, you don't want to go beg, then the owner of house doesn't know that you're begging, so he's not going to give you anything. So you have to beg, and then the owner will, give you what you want. So that's exactly what it is, the preparation. Uh, Now, I talked about Hafiz. Let me give you one of his couplets, which is fiery and always has set fire in my heart when I read that couplet. It says, بگشای تربتم را بعد از وفات و بنگر که از آتش درونم دود از کفن براید. Now it says, after I die, you put me in the cast and, coffin and cast and bury me. But then, if you want to see how much love I had, through this couplet, it says, open up, basically open up my grave and look into my cast and see that because of the fire of me, because the fire of my fire within, the smoke is coming out of my coffin. So basically, he shows what a fiery love, an intense love he had for God. And that sets a good, example of how a lover, a Baba should be. So we always have to, kind of consider ourselves or look at ourselves, okay, are we really a Baba lover or no, just a Baba liker? And Isfander sometimes would emphasize, says, there are a lot of Baba likers, but very, very few Baba lovers. Because, those who really love Baba, they are in fire all the time. Although, the divine love is given eventually by Baba himself. But unless we don't love, he won't give that divine love. So you can see from liker to lover to divine love. There are a lot of degrees of love. And no one is to be blamed because a liker, because of sanskaras, still cannot be a lover. And a lover, because of sanskaras, cannot still be in the divine love, which is on the fifth plane of consciousness and onwards. And eventually, takes one to become united with God. So I guess we talked about preparation, Myrtle Ashram and Prem Ashram. I'm going to leave it, stop here. I don't know how we are doing with the time. I lose track of time, but let's stop for a few minutes, see if anybody has any feedback, questions, because it's always nice to talk to others.
We have at least half hour, but plenty of time. Plenty of time.
Good, okay. And if you have any question, anything, please raise your hand through digitally or speak up. It's not a formal talk. It's just for us to remind ourselves of the beloved and try to love him the way he likes to be loved. couplet of Hafiz says عشق می‌ورزم و امید که این فن شریف چون هنرهای دیگر باعث حرمان نشود. And what that means is that Hafiz says, he says, I am a lover, I love, and I'm loving, and I hope that this profession, Hafiz calls it a profession, and he calls it a decent profession, that I hope that this decent profession does not leave me stranded like other professions. Do you get the meaning of that? I mean, to me, it has a lot of meaning. One is that, first of all, we have to master the profession of loving, because loving also, like any profession, needs a little bit of practice and learning and work. That, Sander always would call it work of love. If the one doesn't do it, then cannot master it. And he was sometimes giving example of like a baby. He said, a baby when wants to walk, when he's born, is not able to walk, but he starts slowly, toddling, and slowly then learns how to walk, and falls off a few times and walks and falls off until eventually is able to walk a distance, and then more, and masters the walking, and maybe even become a runner in the future. And that is how the love is. One loves, but it's not enough, and one has to master this love. And by practice, one can do it. If there was really not a path or impossible, Baba wouldn't lay out, this this road or this path to love. So anybody can master it. But unfortunately, again, because of accumulated sanskaras, sometimes it becomes difficult. But that difficulty doesn't mean that one cannot enter it. One should be able to enter it and continue. So it's like Baba said, get addicted to God. So we have to somehow get addicted to that. And it's easy. Repeat his name. If you cannot image him, try to focus on him when the time permits you. And if you have more time, then image him even more. Try to image him when you're lying down, when you're sleeping, when you're working, and repeat his name. And then eventually this becomes a habit. It becomes like a routine, like breathing. If you don't breathe, you die. And if you don't, think of him, you'll die, basically. It becomes like that. It has to become that intense for one to be able to enter the tariqat, or the path of love.
Farshid, it seems still a mystery to me how you talk about increasing love. And I understand that you follow Baba's wish. And actually, you just now spoke of repeating his name. The things you can do, it's still a mystery to me how you get from how you deepen, how that love deepens. I think of Espandiar, and I just can't imagine how you get to that place where you're so deeply immersed in Baba.
See, again, it's easy and it's not easy. Those kids who came to Prem Ashram, like Espandiar, they had past connections, and we all do. That is the beauty of it. That is what we really rely on, and it is true. We have been with the Avatar, we are with the Avatar, we have a strong link with the Avatar of the age. In the past incarnations of his incarnations, we have been with him, and that's why we are here now. We are, hearing of his name, being with him, being in his contact with himself, his mandalis. If we have seen him in the previous lives, definitely, and all that. So this is already laid out for us. It is easy for us, but it is very difficult for someone who doesn't know about it. You cannot bring a person from the street, from who hasn't heard of anything of Meher Baba, and say, okay, now try to master you know the teaching of law. It's impossible. But for us, it is easy because he already has planted the seed of love. Baba said, I have come to sow the seed of love in your hearts. And in due course, you have to, but we are the one who have to care for this seed and try to make it germinate. Now, how do you germinate a seed? A normal seed. You have to have good soil, good water for it, good ground, right, for the seed to germinate. So we have to have a good ground also within us, for the seed of love to germinate. What are the good grounds? We talked about that earlier. Is basically following Baba's wish, living a normal life in the midst of this gross world, but be honest and in our dealings with everybody and follow what Baba wants us to do. And that prepares the ground for the seed to germinate. And then once it germinates, you have to water it, otherwise the seed will, get dry and die. So once it germinates, you have to water it, you have to fertilize it, you have to, care for it. So all the care here now is repeating his name, imaging him within you, and try to think of him constantly. Means that try to care for this seed constantly. If you leave, the care, the seed might get into trouble and die. A good example is that, uh, I mean, if you, for example, if you don't try to, if you don't remember him for a day or two, maybe because of your illness or because maybe you forgot, then the habit leaves you because you have to, again, get into that habit or rhythm of remembering him and imaging him and think of him and repeating his name and all that. So I give you an example. When I had corona, I was in the hospital dying. I tried to image Baba. I was repeating his name, but I couldn't image him because I was in hallucination and it was so bad. Then I realized that a good health, to ask Baba for a good health is also important. You need to be in good health to be able also to remember him. But once you are in good health, then don't forget that he is the one who has given you the good health. And you need to try to remember him and love him and appreciate that and thank him for all that he has done for you. That reminds me of a couplet. It says, I think it's from Rumi. It says, از دست و زبان که برآید که از عهده شکرت به در آید. It says, from whose tongue and mouth whose tongue and mouth can thank you enough for what you have done. So we really, no matter how much we love him and we thank him, we cannot thank him enough. That is, how much we really need to be involved in loving him. And, there is another couplet of Hafiz that says, حضوری گر همی خواهی از او غافل مشو حافظ. Hafiz says, if you want his presence, means the beloved's presence, never be absent from him. That means, you need to be constantly repeating his name and imaging him. And that takes effort, takes time. That's the effort of love. Effort and grace. That reminds me of effort and grace to that Darwin was talking about. It's the same thing, effort and grace. Unless you don't make that effort, the grace will never come. So again, we have to take God seriously and world lightly. Because the world, no matter good and bad, it's gonna go on. I mean, the world is never ending. But we have to see what our nature says. I mean, as we earlier talked about, the nature is in everyone is different. That's why you have to come up with a resolution with yourself first. What do you want from life? And then, if you think, no, I'm happy with what I got, wife and kids and, home and work and all that, then so be it. But if you think, no, I want more from my life, it's going to be a waste of time if I get engrossed in this world and not be able to, pull myself out of the muck of the illusion, then that is when you come to your senses, to the real senses of, loving the beloved Myrtle. And Baba, has left so many paths open, path of love. So it is up to us.
Farshid, we have a question from Meher Kiran.
Yes. Jai Baba.
Hello, Farshid. Hi.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. We met actually in Myrtle Beach.
Okay.
Okay. So my question is, so we see some artists, they are so loving. Like, is that divine love or what is that? Is it intense love or is it divine love? And when you said the divine love is in the plane 5, I'm thinking, is there no other way, or am I imagining some other love as divine love?
You see, it's not it's not the divine love that Baba talks about. It is love. I'm not saying it's not love, but it's not the love that is, needed for one to become realized. Because that love is like a fish out of water, basically. One is constantly burning. I'll give you an example, because I don't have that love, but I've heard of it, And there was this, it was my actually aunt's husband, my father's sister's husband, named Shahryar Mehrabanpur. You might have heard of him or read about him in Lord Mayor. Baba put him in charge. He was older. He wasn't in the Prem Ashram or Myrtle Ashram. He was later on in Sadiq Ashram that Baba had. But in the beginning, when he went to Baba, Baba put him in charge of one of the boys. Well, his name was Ali, not the Ali that we know, the lover, because there were so many Alis. Ali Akbar, Shapur Zaman, Ali, many Alis. I think there were four Alis at least. So anyway, this Ali also had fiery love, and Baba had put him in charge of him. Baba had said, you go with him and you stay with him and you make sure that he doesn't damage himself. The reason I'm giving you this story is to see where we are and then where we need to be. And that was not even, close to the love for the fifth plane. Now, this Ali had a fiery love. I mean, he constantly was crying and loving Baba in a way that he would run. Sharia would say, Ali would run in the desert of Mehrabad, of the upper Mehrabad. Now I would run after him. I would get tired. And I would say, Ali, let's go back. People are eating now. We need to go. And then, they would come back. But Sharia would say Ali would run. And anywhere he would see a puddle of water, he would say, Sharia, I am burning. And he would put his tummy in the puddle of water. And because of the heat, the water would evaporate. It starts basically, evaporating. So this was this is the fiery love that one eventually will end up with. Now, some say, I don't want this fiery love because really speaking, I mean, your life is ruined having this fiery love. And the life of the worldly life, I mean, the worldly life is ruined by having such a fiery love, because at that point you don't want anything except think of the beloved and union with him, and you are like a fish out of water. So this eventually will deserve the soul of his nazar. Once you have that love, then the master will have his nazar on the disciple, and the disciple will be stationed on the fifth plane of consciousness. And when the disciple is stationed on the fifth plane of consciousness, although he has this fiery love, like some of you who might have met Muhammad the Master. I mean, he was constantly in fire, but nobody would realize his fire except those who were close in soul with him. And he had that divine love, he was constantly loving the beloved. So that is the pure, innocent love. Like you have the gold, you have the love within you, the gold within you, the jewel within you, but that jewel is covered with filth of sanskaras. And that jewel slowly, by repeating his name, loving him, that sanskara slowly fades out and vanishes, and the jewel starts shining. And that becomes the divine love. So that is like a pure gold. We are all gold, but we are not pure gold. So to become pure gold, or pure love, one must love. There was actually Baba talked about that in many places, but one of them I remember was saying that if you go to a wine keeper, this is the story that Baba was saying, that you go to a wine keeper and you want wine from the wine keeper. You go to the tavern, to the wine keeper, say, I want some wine. The tavern keeper is not going to give you wine unless you have money for it, right? The coin. So you give the coin, and he checks to make sure the coin is real, is not a counterfeit coin. And then if he sees that, yeah, the coin is real, then he gives you the glass of wine. And Baba said, the divine love is the same. One cannot put up a show of love because the tavern keeper knows that that is a counterfeit coin, and he's not going to give you that wine that you want. But one who sincerely and honestly loves God and sincerely and honestly asks for the wine, he will pour the wine. He will know that that is not a counterfeit or the show. That's not the show of love. And he will give you more wine, and you will get intoxicated, and eventually give you that divine love that you deserve. So unless one doesn't love, one will not get that divine love, because that purity of that gold that we made an example of comes only with making the gold pure by repeating his name, by imaging him within you, and constantly be in his presence. So once you do that, then he knows that you deserve, and he will give you. Like, the example of Saint Francis of Assisi. I mean, Saint Francis of Assisi loved Jesus so much, and that was 400 years after Jesus had dropped his body. But he loved Jesus so much that Jesus appeared to him, and basically he became God realized. So you can see that it's not impossible to love him, and it's not impossible to get his grace. It is for us to love to the extent that his grace falls on us. It will. If we do our part honestly and sincerely, the day will come that he will give us his real grace of divine love. Did I answer the question, hopefully?
I don't. We have another question. It sounded like a good answer to me. Are you there, Meher Kiran?
Yeah, thanks. That was really nice. Yeah. And I think we were reading that same story of Ali with the hot tummy, right? Hot belly. I think we read it very recently in one of our, I think it's in Ramju Diaries or.
Yeah, it must be Ramjas Diaries.
Yeah. It feels so like what I said, divine lavish.
That's true. He's so beautifully writes so beautifully.
Yeah.
We have another question from Meher Prasad.
Yes, Jai Baba.
Yeah, Baba Farshid.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Whenever I hear about the fire of divine love, I remember Esfandiar talking about this story of, I think it was Bayazid, who had to go out in snow somewhere, and there was some story about plants being.
Yeah. That's the story of Baba Tahir Orion.
Okay.
His name was Baba Tahir Orion. Orion means naked. Baba Tahir was his name. So he was named the Naked Baba Tahir. And he was on the top of Alvan. It's a mountain in Iran. And all the time that mountain has a snow. And the story was that Espandiar read this story of Baba Tahir, that, he had such a love for God, fiery love for God, that he would sit naked in the snow, and the snow was melted around him, and the spring flowers had grown. When he reads that story, he throws the book away. He says, forget it. This is all rubbish, because how could, human body survive in the snow and ice? Because, you have freezing ice. If it's in a iron pipe, it bursts the pipe. So he wouldn't believe that. He said, no, this is nonsense. I don't believe that. Until that story happens to him, that he goes to get medicine for his sister. You remember that story? His sister
Yeah, but
gets
I'd
sick.
love to hear that again. Yes, I remember it, but would be great to hear that
Yeah,
again.
he had gone back from Prem Ashram. He was in Yaz, living with his parents, his father and mother, and one of his sisters gets sick, and they were in a village about maybe 10 miles away from the city of Yaz, and the medicine was not available in the village. I mean, it was a small village at the time. Even now, it's a very small village. So there was no dispensary or anything like that. So he had to go to the city of Yaz to get the medicine for the sister to survive. So he comes and he puts, layers of clothing, underwear, shirt on the top of the shirt, sweater on the top of sweater, and a big jacket over it. And he prepares the donkey, and then, the vehicle at the time was mostly donkey at the time. So he mounts the donkey and starts going towards the city of Yaz. And as he's going towards the city of Yaz, he's now getting closer to Nusratabad, which was the village that I was born in, not that far away from Jafarabad. But at that time, the snow blizzards was so bad, and the wind would blow and pick up the snow and, whirling and swirling the snow into his face and into the face of the donkey. And he was in the verge of, dying, because it was so cold and the snow was covered his face. His face was frozen, basically. You would breathe, very shallowly and slowly. And he thought that, gosh, I'm going to die here in this desert. And suddenly he remembered that Baba said, that I will call you again, and you will come and see me. And then he thinks that, Baba, I am dying here, and how can I be able to come and see you again? As soon as he says he remembered that, his heart, he was heartbroken, that he's dying here and won't see the beloved. He said, as soon as the thought came, it was like somebody with a big bucket of boiled water emptying on my head. He said, it washed and melted all the snow from my top to bottom. And I was warmed up, and the donkey was warmed up. And he said that from then on, I thought I'm in a rose garden. I mean, I was, thinking of the beloved and the smell, the fragrance of the inner path and all that. He said I was experiencing that all the way to the city of Yazd. And I went and got the medicine and came back. And he said after that, I didn't even catch a cold. I was coughing, even black mucus was coming out, but didn't have any problem. And then he remembered Baba Tahir and the story that he read of him. And then he realized that the fire of love within can influence without or outside, basically. And then he believed that what Baba Tahir had said was true. Baba Tahir was a simple man. I mean, he once was in a mosque in his village, and he saw these boys are reading Quran. So he was a simple person. He didn't have any education. He wasn't literate. He wouldn't even was able to read or write or anything. And then he goes to these boys and says, "How do you live? How do you, recite Quran so nicely?" And then the boys, some of them say, "Oh, this. You see this pool here? The pool in the winter, when it's frozen, we come and break it and dive into the pool. And when we come out, we can read Quran." Now, he was so simple and simple in his mind that he comes and basically waits until winter. And in the winter, he comes and breaks the pool ice with an axe and dives in. And when he dives in, he jumps out and he he starts reciting poems. And his poems are there. One of the first poems that he says, "Yek moon nadaham, yek moon nadaham besad dunya." Basically, what it says, one hair of my blanket I will not give to the whole world because it was so cold. But then after that, he, starts reading poems and becomes intoxicated in the love for God. Because God himself is in simplicity and purity. And he was such a simple and pure soul that, he deserved to get that fire, to get that fire of love.
Farshid, which boy was it who went to get the medicine for his sister? Who was that?
That was Esfandia.
Oh, Svandia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're about the end, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, unless somebody has more questions.
Yeah.
This has been a wonderful hour. Wow.
Yeah, if you have any more questions, as much as I can answer, bring it up.
Well, I think we know what we have to do. To me, it feels like, if I just listen internally, I do well. I think I know the answer inside, what to do, but I don't always. I get impatient when I'm not doing the right thing. I get impatient with I know that's a sign that.
Yeah, silence is good always. Baba says, silence helps with all these too. It's a medium of love. And actually, he says external silence, because silence needs to be internal also. It means that externally, if you're silent, but your mind is working and, you're thinking about a lot of things, that's not really a good silence. Baba said, but external silence helps the internal silence. And when the internal silence is there, the tranquility is there, then one can love. One can really love and be with the beloved and be intoxicated. I'll give you another story that would help, and it's had helped me in the past. And this story came from Svandir Versali also. There was the story is this way, that there was a blacksmith, iron worker basically, and he hired a boy to come and help. And the boy's work was blowing into the fire, or use the blower. They had pumps like that, had manual pumps to blow. So his work was blowing only for the fire. So he goes, he starts the day of work with the blacksmith, and blacksmith says, "Okay, blow, and I'll do my work." He said, "Okay." He starts blowing, and after some time, the boy gets tired. He said, "Master, can I sit and blow?" He says, "Sure, yeah, sit and blow." So he sits down, and he's blowing again. And after some time, he gets tired of sitting, and he says, "Master, can I lie down and blow?" The master said, "Yeah, lie down and blow, but blow. I don't mind. You can die and blow, but blow. Die and blow." So basically, for us, this is a good story because it sheds a lot of light. For us, we have to love. That's the bottom line. So how we love, that is, to our liking, but we have to love. So we have to find a way of loving. By sitting, by sleeping, by dying, we have to love. But that was that story was nice to hear. There was another story that is simple and quick. Was that a disciple asked the master, the perfect master, that why don't you give me God realization? The master, and you can do it, right? The master said, "Yeah, I can give you God realization in a glimpse of a second." Then the disciple says, then why don't you? He says, if I give you God realization now, it's like, do you see this pot full of grease? If I throw it in the fire will burn the grease, but also will burn the pot. And after that, the pot is no good. I can't use the pot. He said, you are like that pot. But if I take this pot to the river and, and try to clean it with soil and, rub it and slowly clean it and wash it and all that, then that pot is useful to me. I can use the pot again. He says, exactly like that for me. I can throw you in the fire or give you God revelation right away, but you will drop your body and you merge and you're no good, no use to me anymore. But over time, I grind you, I clean you, I massage you until you become clean, and then you become like the clean pot basically. And you become a media of my work. You can be useful to me. So that is how Baba wants it this way. He can give God realization in a glimpse of a second, but the soul merges into the oversoul and it's done. And they cannot help other souls. But the way that Baba loves, Baba likes, is for us to be in the world, not be always love him, so he can slowly clean us up and become a media for his work. And we can, help others. And other souls, basically. So that's how he wants it. What can I say? Well, let's end the meeting with another couplet This is Nis bar lohe dilam. Now this is also Hafiz. This is Nis bar lohe dilam. جز الف قامت یار چه کنم حرف دیگر یاد نداد استاد. And this is how we should become. He says, there is nothing on the surface of my dill except the image of the beloved. What can I say? The beloved did not teach me anything else. And Asandra would say that, a lot of times. So that's a good thing to remember, that we should slowly clean up the surface of our dill and not to have any other image except his image.
Now, can you tell us what the deal is?
Oh, the dill means, the surface of, we call it heart in the English word, but it's not really a mechanical heart that Svander also sometimes would explain. It's like the seat of the soul, the existence, the where our being is, where our real self is. That is what in Persian literature is called the dill, where the love comes, basically. So that's what we should have, the image of the beloved. And I remember the last words of Esfandiar to me, that he said, remember this and tell others that the best method of loving the beloved is to love him with your dill and in your dill. So basically you have, and he said that would be the best way because you bypass the mind and the mind would not interfere. He said, this was the thing that he got to eventually, that he needs to love with his heart, with his dill, and in his dill, basically imaging him within the dill and loving him within the dill. So with that said, I wish Baba helps us all to love him that way, and to love him more and more and more and more until we are no more. Jai Baba.
Oh, so beautiful. Thank you, Farshid.
Thank you, Baba.
Farshid, I really loved what you said in the beginning, that what do we really want? What do I want?
Yeah.
I get a different answer every time I ask that question, but I want food, I want my favorite drink or whatever. But I remember Kabir's couplet that the Mandali, especially Mani, used to recite all the time, which is along the same lines. It says, determine once and for all that, make such a determination once and for all. निश्चय ऐसा कीजिए सब कुछ एक ही बार, सब प्रभु का कुछ नहीं मेरा, निश्चय ऐसा विचार. It means that make such a determination once and for all that all this is his, nothing is mine. Make that kind of a determination. So it really resonates with what you said in the beginning, figure out what you really want. Thank you.
Thank you, Baba. Thank you. Thank you all for coming in and enjoying the Feast of Love.
Hey, Baba Farshid, thank you.
Jai Baba. Thank you. Jai Baba.
So much. Thank you so much, Farshid. Wonderful time.
Jai Beer Baba Farshid, thank you very much.
Indeed. Good to hear your voice.
Very good to hear yours. And Mayor Prasad, the couplet of Kabir that you just quoted is something that Mani many, many times in Mandalay Hall would say that very much from the bottom of her heart. My sense was that was the couplet that Mani made her life, you know, that nothing was hers. It was all his. Jai Meher Baba.
Amen.